So this video is another look at the linear search program, but I have restructured this to put the linear search capability into a function. Okay, so this is kind of a synthesis of techniques from chapter 6 and now chapter 8. So I have a function prototype up at the top, and I've called my function search array. And notice that the array, or the function rather, returns an integer. So when we find, if we find the element we're looking for in the array, we will return the index or the subscript at which that value is found. The function will return that value back to main. So let's take a look at the parameters. This is an array of type string. This parameter is an array of type string. I used ARR. I'm not crazy about this name for the parameter, but I noticed that your book, the Gaddis book, uses that a lot. So, I mean, I guess it is kind of self-documenting. We look at that, we know it's the array coming through. So, also, you have to put your square bracket notation. So otherwise, that would just be a regular string parameter if we didn't have the square brackets there. So you put the empty square brackets to indicate that it's an array coming through. You don't put a size or anything, you just put the empty square brackets. So the array is going to be passed to the function. And then also the size of the array as an integer coming through, and then the string, which is the flavor that we're looking for. So let's go down to the bottom where I've coded the definition of the function. And so, you know, it's really kind of the same code from the last video. I don't want to get too much into it, but we have the Boolean, if it was found or not. I've initialized that to false. The found at index, I explained the -1 in the last video because it does not correspond to any array index. So that's a kind of an okay starting value there. And then we have our loop that we're going to loop through the array. Okay, it's a little different because I'm referring to the parameter names. But so I'm going to initialize my loop counter I to 0, of course. Every time you're looping through an array, initialize to 0. Arrays are 0 based. Going to keep looping while I is less than size. Size is going to be whatever we pass into this. It's the array size, which is being passed in as a parameter. And we're also going to keep going while the value has not been found. So as long as we haven't exceeded the size or the upper limit of the array and we haven't found what we're looking for, we're going to keep looping, and then our increment, of course. So here we have an if statement. If the current value that we are looking at in the array, in this iteration of the loop, if it happens to be equal to the search flavor, then we found it. We're going to isolate the found index. We're going to flip this switch or set that flag variable to true. So that'll end the loop effectively. No point in keep on looping because we found what we're looking for. We're done. And then we will return. Recall that this function returns an integer, returning the found index to main. So let's go to main. Again, we've created the array. We've initialized it on the spot with all the flavors. This has not changed. Max flavors 10. The search string is again coffee in this example. And then look at this. We're calling the function. The search capability is being handled by the function outside of main. So we're putting in a call to that function. What are we passing? We're passing the array itself. And this is interesting. If you look at the way we're passing the array, you just pass the array by name. When you're passing the array to a function as an argument, in this case, you do not put the square bracket. So if I were looking at this out of context, I wouldn't know that we're passing an array there. But you're actually passing the name of the array is actually a reference to the location in memory where that array begins. This is a pass by reference. If you recall, I know we didn't really spend a lot of time on pass by reference in our functions chapter, but that's a passing of the address to the function. And arrays are by default passed by reference or address because they tend to be larger than simple variables, so it wouldn't make sense to make a big copy of this big variable. That would not be an efficient way of managing memory. Okay, and then we're passing the size of the array, which is max flavors, which is 10 in this case, and then the flavor that we're looking for, which is coffee in this case. And that's that. So if it's found, that index will be it's going to end up, the found at index is going to end up in this variable that I have created here in main. Okay, and then when all said and done, we're saying if the found at index is not equal to -1, okay, that because it will return a -1 if it's not found, we will get a -1 back. We got to get something back, so it's either going to be a -1 or a 0 through 9 if the flavor is found. So if it's not equal to -1, that means we found it, and we're going to tell the user where it's been found, or else we're going to say the flavor was not found. So I'll go ahead and run that, and the results are going to be the same as in the last video, and there it is.